My name is Suad. Today, along with my colleague Erica. Hi, Erica.
Hi.
We will be presenting how to create digital self-checking activities for the math classroom. We are both math coaches with the Halifax Regional Center for Education, and we mainly support grade 7 to 9 teachers, with occasionally supporting grade 6 teachers when we are at middle schools. Our contact information can be seen here on the slide, and please feel free to contact us after for any questions. Also, feel free to tweet today about this session or simply follow us on Twitter. All right. In this session, we will discuss what self-checking activities are, show you how to create digital self-checking activities using both Google Sheets, and we're going to call those activities pixel art math, and you'll know later on why. We're going to go with Desmos card sorts as well as an activity, as a self-checking activity. So I will be presenting the Google Sheet parts, and then my colleague Erica will be taking over later on to present the Desmos card sort. We're also going to be sharing resources with you that we've created already that are in English and French. And at the end, we would love to answer all your questions. And if you wish to have some time to try it out, we have that for you ready. All right, so before we start, during our lockdown in the spring, we were still supporting all the teachers that we, as coaches, we were supporting all the teachers that we worked with earlier in the year. A common observation was the lack of digital activities for teachers to use. We all had paper versions of everything, but not a lot of digital assignments for students to interact with and complete. We also knew that some students do not have the means to print the paper versions to be able to work on them, and let alone have access to a digital device when the teacher held their office hours to ask their questions and clarifications. So we wanted to find activities that would allow students to work anytime during the day and get immediate feedback about what they are doing, hence the self-checking component. These activities were positively received by teachers and students, and that's the main reason we are here today. So self-checking activities give students immediate feedback on how well they're doing, especially during online learning, but also in the classroom, and give them a chance to make corrections when needed. They allow teachers to work with small groups, have some conversations, some conferencing, while others are engaged in these activities. It allows teachers to have some meaningful engagement for students in combined or split classrooms. So when a certain grade level, like you have a class of, let's say, 7, 8 combined, so your grade 7 students may be working on these activities independently, while you would need to work with your grade 8 students in that same classroom on lesson or explanations. They allow teachers to get feedback, the individual student progress. So when the pixel art activities that we're going to talk about later on are shared through Google Classroom, the teacher will know exactly where each student is, or what they have completed and not completed, or got stuck or not got stuck. As well as for Desmos, you can look at the teacher dashboard, and I guess Erica will show you later on how that works, and that gives the teacher full feedback of how the students are doing. Self-checking activities are also, we find them as great tools for inclusive and differentiated classroom. You can have the same activity given to everyone in the classroom, but you can differentiate the content of what the questions are, and everyone would be completing the exact same thing. Promote student motivation and engagement. And I have to say that we heard this feedback from teachers during the spring. I have to tell you that I've heard that students were asking their teachers for specific requests of what the next image they would like it to be. And we'll know a little bit more about that in a bit. So at this point, I'm gonna start by showing you what a pixel art math activity is. I'm gonna switch my screen here and go straight to Google Sheets. If you are not familiar with Google Sheets, you can always get it from, this is the main page of Google, here's the Google Apps, and then Google Sheet is one of those options. All right, so here's an activity. If you notice here, I'm gonna try to enlarge it a little bit for you. Maybe you can see it better. How does that feel? Is it better? Okay. So if we look here, we have a blank space on the left, and we have some questions to the right. And it says, evaluate the following, write your answer in the green cells. I am hoping and wishing that you can see that this column here is green. Now, what's 2 plus 5? When I put the answer in, which is 7, and hit enter, something happens on the left-hand side. 88 minus 6 is an 82. It tells the students that once the image appears, it tells the students that their answer is right. 3 times 5 is 15, but what if I don't know that and I decide it's 14? Nothing happens. It's an indication that my answer is not right. So if I go back to 15, more shows up. That's negative 4. This is a 2. 7 plus 3 is 10. And 7 times 9 is, well, I think it's 65, but it actually is not. So if we go 63, you will see my whole image is now revealed. We call them pixel art just because it's kind of like a pixelated image. Every little cell is colored. The self-checking component is when your work is correct, an indication, you have an indication of that in that picture. So how do we create these activities? How do we create something like that? And that's what I'm going to go over next. But before I do, I hope that you can see we have in this section from column A to column S, I have some sort of like squares, and on this side, I don't have really squares. So I'm going to walk you through how to create all of that step by step. But I also want you to know that if you cannot follow because I'm going fast, all these step by step we've created a document for you with all those with pictures and step by step instructions that we would be sharing as well. All right, so how do we create? That's my little indication that I need to change my Zoom to 125 reminder. Okay, so we would Google Sheets has 26 when you first start. It has 26 columns because we have 26 alphabet, and I know from experience that this is not enough. So I need to add more columns. And how do we do so? If you can add column by column, but I'd rather add a lot first and then delete what I don't need. So if you click on this little rectangle area here, it will allow you to select the whole sheet. Once you do, go to insert at the top. We don't want to insert rows, but we do want to insert columns. You can insert them either at the left or the right. It doesn't really matter. I like to do it on the right-hand side. So I'm going to insert 26 more. And if you can see here, more cells have been inserted. Now, I do need to make some changes, and one of them is, I just want to say you don't need to worry about your rows because they actually go to 1,000, and we're not going to use 1,000 rows. We need to make the square-shaped cells. To do so, we need to select as many cells as you like, and that's basically depending on what image you would like. How big is your image? So today, I'm just going to go to K. Once you select the columns that you would like, hover over in between any two columns up until you see this little white arrow. I hope you can see that. And it doesn't matter where, if between E and F or F, G or C, D, it doesn't really matter where you hover over, as long as you see one and you drag it to the left up until it makes some sort of like a square. Maybe it's not really a square, doesn't matter at this point, and that will change all your selections. Once it's still selected, if you don't like how big it is, you can still drag it over a little bit, or just again, no, I like. So once you like what it looks like, this is what it is. On this left-hand side, this is where my picture will be, but it's very important to have my questions ready too. I like to draw my image first and then add the questions, but I do that at the same time as well. So if you want, today we're going to be, I'm going to use a simple shape, really. I'm going to make a square, and I'm going to, how to color that, how to make the drawing. I would actually select 5 on top, and I go to fill color. Choose the color that I want, maybe blue today. One side is blue. Now, 2, 3, 4, 5. This side is going to be purple. So what I'm doing is I'm creating my image at this point, and for this purpose of this session, I chose to create a simple image, which is maybe a square. Oh, that doesn't look like a square. Okay, I'm going to go this way. I made a mistake, but you can always go back here and then reset. Okay. I don't need this one. Okay, and then right here, I'm going to need maybe red. If you wish to maybe color here, whatever you want. It's your choice, your image, but I'm just showing you how to create it. Maybe I don't like that color, it's too, maybe the light green. Anyhow, so now I have an image right here. I like putting a frame around it. So to put a frame, I would select all the cells that are around it and go to borders and click the outer borders. Now I have my image and I have my borders, just so that the kids know where the image is gonna be. On the right-hand side, for the purpose of this presentation, I'm gonna make the questions, the math questions, really easy. I'm gonna have evaluate the following. And I like also write your answer in the below cells. I just like the kids to know where exactly I want them to write the answers. So right here, I can have a column for questions. And I like to give them directives and then say answer here. Now, again, for the purpose of this presentation, just to show you clearly how that works, is equal 5 times 2 is equal to 11 plus 9 is equal, and so on and so forth. So now that I have my questions, you can put them in the table, select all the cells, go to borders again. Now this time all borders so that it looks like a table. Make sure that the answer cells, the column of the answer is actually blue, because that's what we asked the kids to place their answers in the blue cells. You can make any changes here to the font. If you don't like it, you can bold, you can make it center, anything that you would do normally in a document, you can do. And now I know my answers. I need to write them down. 7 plus 4 is equal to 11, and 5 times 2 is equal to 10. 11 plus 9 is equal to 20. All right, so I have my questions, I have my answers, and I have my drawing. Now, how do we get this sheet to actually function in a way when we place the answer in the right spot, it appears, the colors or design appears here on the left. And that's what I will be doing, I will be showing you next. I can't stress enough how important it is to actually have the questions ready and typed before, as well as the picture drawn before you do the next step. And I'll show you in a bit why. So in the next step, I'm going to go back to my example here that I showed you before. And I have this image already, and I have my answers here. So if I delete my 7, nothing happens because, and if I put my 7 in, nothing happens. So how do we get the program, or how do we get Sheets to make this happen? Here's what we need to do. So first, we're going to select cells that have the same color. So I'm going to select all those yellow cells. Let's select them. And then once we select them, go to color, to fill color. and we're going to hit reset color. We're going to reset that to no color. After this step, I'm going to go to insert, sort to format, and I'm going to go to conditional formatting. I hope you can see it here. Once I click on that, a little section here on the right pops up. There's a formula rule. There's a format rule. Sorry, format rules here. It says is not empty, but I don't want it to be. But that's not the rule I want. So click on this little arrow, scroll down all the way to custom formula is. And so now I have custom formula is, but I need to type in my formula. I just want to, before I move on here, if this is too much, I just want you to know, I'm going to repeat it in a second. And I also want you to know that all these steps have been prepared for you in a document, and that will be shared. So we want this formula, back to this, we want this formula, we want to define this formula and tell Sheets, Google Sheets, what to do. First, it's an equal sign. And then I'm going to look at where my answer is. The answer of my first question, 7, is in column V and row 5. So what we want to tell Sheets to do is, we're going to put a $sign here, and that will activate math mode. So $sign, wherever the answer is. The answer is in column V, $sign again, row 5. Whenever the answer in cell V5 is equal to 7, now I want you to notice that my white section here turned into a little bit of greenish because that's the color here that's by default. So we need to change that color to what we needed, and we needed it to be yellow. And when I change this to yellow, this is basically saying to Sheets, when the answer in cell V5 is equal to 7, turn the reset color into yellow, and then done. Once I do, you can see that this is one of the rules we have. So now to double check that this is correct, I'm going to remove my 7. And once I remove my 7, my color is gone. If I put it back, it shows up. Now, for the sake of not not doing formatting the cells over and over, just when you format certain cells, delete the answer so that you know what's left for you to format. For this one, I'm going to repeat the same process, but this time I'm going to take all the black cells here. And I would like, instead of doing this step by step, I would like to take more cells that are black. So what I do is I press Control, keep pressing Control, and then the Control button on your keyboard, and then select manually the other cells. So as you can see right now, not only the ones that I selected at the beginning that are by each other are selected, but the ones that I'm actually tapping on are also selected. And then you can go back to fill color and reset those. You can see that they're still selected. Try not to hit anywhere on that screen right now because you'll lose them. And if you accidentally do, that is totally fine. Just go to undo and you have to go back again and do the work. So format, at this point, conditional formatting. In the format rules, we're gonna go down to where it says custom formula is. Click on that. And we're gonna customize our formula for cell V6, because that's where our 82 is for question number 2. So equal $sign V $sign 6, and this time when V6 is equal to 82, make sure that you change the color to black. So, and it's done. How do I verify that this is? You can see that the formula is here set up. When you take out your 82, you've got nothing. Keep going. I'm not going to go one by one. I just want you to know, for the sake of this presentation, these questions, we made them really simple so that you understand what's going on. I want to show you examples of digital pixel art math activities that we've done before that include questions that are outcome-based from our Nova Scotia curriculum. So this is a grade 8 one, as you can see here. There are some graphs that you can have and questions at the bottom of graphs. There are some equations that they need to fill, some points on that belong to a linear equation. Anything is possible. And that's why we like creating ours versus finding things already made. This is another one. That's a grade 9 one. Also patterns and relationship. I've included an image here. We've included those graphs with all the questions. The only thing that I would recommend is wherever the kids have to put the answer, just make it clear to them where would you like them to have the answers. I mentioned earlier that if you weren't able to follow along with me, we have prepared for you step-by-step instruction on how to do this, including images, and we're going to be sharing all of that in our presentations, step by step. They're right here, just in case you would need them for later on. All right, I'm going to go back to my pixel art. Also, when we later on at the end of this session, when we share with you the link to the entire presentation, there is some practice for you. So if you'd like to practice just how to do conditional formatting, I've got this ready for you. And here's a little cheat sheet, like what to do. You can always go back to select the desired cell, reset the color, click format conditioning, And if you want to actually practice the whole thing from scratch, doing the columns, and this is one for you as well here. You just drag the picture over, try to do it all, change the setting of your columns, and then that's your choice. So again, at the end of this session, we will be giving you time to either have questions or answer your questions, or if you'd like to practice or look at any of the resources that we have, you're more than welcome to do so. At this point, I am going to turn this over to my colleague, Erica. But before, is there any, I need to look at the chat box. Erica, is there any questions that I could answer at the point? Or
No, just these are great.
Okay, so I'm going to stop my sharing right now. And then it's all to you.
Okay, so my turn. Thank you so much, Suad. And thank you everybody for joining us this morning. So I'm gonna share my screen here. Okay, so we are going to take a look. We're going to dive right into our second digital self-checking activities. And for this, we are going to step away from the Google Suite and head over to Desmos.com. So slowly loading. There we go. So if you've not used Desmos before, it's a website. So this is what its homepage looks like. And Desmos is an online graphing calculator that's available for free to everyone. And in addition to that fantastic graphing calculator, the Desmos site has a number of ready-made activities, including inquiry-based learning, 3-act math tasks, and polygraph, which is an activity like the game Guess Who, which is really great for getting students to practice their math vocabulary. But what we are going to take a look at this morning is a card sort through Desmos. So I'm going to take you over to what it would look like if your students were joining. So we're going to go to student.desmos.com, and I have an activity ready to go. And once you have these, you're given a code for each of your classes. So I'm going to put that code in, and I'm going to show you later how we create that. So I'm going to hit join. And I've logged in through Google, so that's how it knows who I am. So your students can do that as well. As I said, this is free to use. And this is what card sort looks like. So instructions at the top says match the cards in groups of 3, and this title will change when you are correct. So I can see that I have some picture cards here. I also have some cards with some words on it, and I can see that some of them are kind of a purpley light blue backing, and others are more of a pink. So it seems like I'm going to connect the name to the shape. You can lose cards, they can get tucked under, so you just want to be careful with that. When you've connected them, you'll see the header at the top that tells you how many cards are in that group. And so I'm going to finish this off by putting the red there. If I want to tuck it in between, I can do that. If I want to pull it out, drop it to the end, I can do that. I know that cards are ready to be joined when the one underneath has that highlighting in blue. So we can join those and those two together. We can move them around anywhere on the screen, give ourselves more room. Okay, and so as we finish this off, I have one card left, and my title at the top tells me that this part is going to change when I'm correct. So this is our self-checking piece. And so when I drop this in, I get a little message up here telling me that I've done this correctly. So if I remove one, I'm no longer correct, and my title goes back. Notice that they don't all have to be in the same order for it to be correct. So this had the name of the shape first, while this had the color. As long as these three cards are matched in some way and these three cards, etc., then the correct message will show up. So that's what it looks like for your students. So we're going to head over to the teacher side of Desmos. So I'm on desmos.com. And here, if you've not explored it, or if you don't have an account with Desmos, you can start that here. Very simple. You can sign in using your Google credentials. So I'm going to log in here. I'm going to log in with Google. And we're going to take a look at the activities. So there are a number of activities that Desmos has put together. So they have some collections here. They have some featured activities down here. And then all along the side here are more collections. So there are all kinds of activities that you can explore and use with your students. If you want something specific, you can search for it here. In addition to Desmos creating activities, and there are activities on here that are created by educators outside of Desmos. There's also activities you can find if you go to Google. So you can Google Desmos and whatever it is you are looking for, and you'll have access to any of the activities that have been created by other educators, because Desmos makes it very easy for you to create your own. And that's what we're going to take a look at how to do today. So I'm going to hit custom, and it's going to take me to the custom activities that I have created, and we are going to start a new activity. So we click on new activity. It's going to ask us to give it a title. We have a choice here of our sharing settings, so we can make it so that anyone with a link can view it, or we can make it private. Even if you make it private, you have access to a link that you could share with others. And we're just going to practice making card sort. So just an activity description. And we click Create New Activity. So it's going to take us into the Desmos Activity Builder. So with this card sort, we are really just scratching the surface of what Desmos can do. If you are interested in all of the other features, if you look on the side here, all of these things, we're skipping them all, heading right to the bottom, just to the card sort. So if you're interested in more, our colleague Eric Lee is doing a presentation tomorrow at 9 on Desmos, so there'll be more information there. So we're going to head to the card sort and select that. And now it gives us the option to start to add our cards. So I can add a card that has text. I can add a card that has math. So if I wanted to type a fraction, I could hit the F of X button, 3/4. So now I have 3/4. Or maybe I want to add, hit the F of X button, and then I can add an equation or an expression. If I want to add an image, it tells me to either drag an image here or click to upload. So I'm going to click, and my browser will open. I'm going to go to images, and I try to have them ready to go so that I'm not, it's just faster to create it. So let's open this one. There we go. Or we can add another image here. So I'm clicking, and in my saved images, There we go. And the last type of card, as I mentioned, Desmos is a graphing calculator. So you can type in and it will create the graph for you. So at any point, if you are curious to see what this is going to look like outside of the activity builder, what your students will see, you can go up to the preview button in the top right. And when you click on that, you can see the screen that your students will see. So the graph's a little hard to see, but you can always click on any of the cards and it will enlarge so you can get a better idea of what's there. Click the X to bring it back down. I want to draw your attention to the two text parts here. So if you use the Desmos and create a card with just typing in there as we did, it's about this size. I like it to be a little bigger, and especially like in the example I showed you, if I have words or cards that are similar. So I had all the names of shapes in this pink color, and then in the blue, I had all the colors. I like to put that background on it just to keep it more organized, a little easier to see the differences for my students. And to do that, I did have to create this as an image. So there isn't a way yet in Desmos to change the background color here. So I just went into Google Slides, which is where I do a lot of my images, and put a text box in, typed in triangle, and then shaded that triangle in. I then snipped it and saved it as an image. Definitely more work. I just find it's much easier for my students to see. So all of this is fine, but none of it really is a card sort that matches. So let's get rid of those, and we're going to create a new one. So I'm thinking I'd like to do one on angles. So we have a right angle, an acute angle. Try that again. Thinking of the grade 6 outcome where they're classifying angles according to their measure. So obtuse and reflex. And so I'm going to put some images in. So again, clicking, heading to my images, and I've had these saved previously. So we open this one up, jump to the next one. I mentioned that I like to use Google Slides for creating images. I also use an extension for that called Equatio. So it helps you type math into programs in the Google Suite, but it also has a really neat feature called the Math Space, which is a place to create math pictures and diagrams. So you can do shapes, it will do fractions for you, number lines, etc. So again, if you're interested in Equatio, there's a session this afternoon at 1 by Peter Day on Equatio. Okay, so I think I'm good. I'm always going to preview it to make sure. Yep, you don't want it too crowded. Desmos suggests no more than 20. I think even on a Chromebook screen, 20 might be too many. Pictures obviously take up more room. And once we have done that, we're happy with what we have, we can create an answer key. So we click on answer key and we connect the ones that we want. Oh, see, I've buried one there. So there's my reflex angle, acute. And it doesn't matter where they are, just make sure that they are all connected. I've definitely done an answer key where I missed connecting a set of cards, so none of my students could get any of it right. So I have 4 sets of 2, quick check that I've done it correctly. Okay, and I'm done. So at this point, you could publish it. You would get a class code. You could send your students to student.desmos.com. They could do the card sort. What wouldn't happen is the title wouldn't change for them when it's correct. You would still be able to see how they're doing because Desmos has a very powerful teacher dashboard. So I just want to show you that. So here is I'll show you here. Here's the card sort that we started out doing. So that's the one that I just did. And you can see that I have it all correct. But let's take a look at some of the other students in the class. So we see here that Wes seems to have almost everything, but that last one. So maybe I'm going to take a look at what his screen looks like. Oh, look, he just didn't quite connect that last one. So I know, okay, see what's happening there. And then I take a look at Bronwyn. So she's got 2 sets done, but the last 2 sets don't seem to be done. So maybe she got called away or distracted or whatever happened. So she's not quite finished. And then I can actually see that Andrew has some that are incorrect, right? So flashing, or it's red here. So if we take a look, okay, so a couple of these are okay. And then I'm a little worried if he thinks that this is both red and green. So the ability to see if your students are correct, you always have through the dashboard. You can see exactly what their screen looks like as they're working on it, or how they left it. There's a summary. So all the summary gives you is that I'm correct and these 3 students are not, but you can see there were varying degrees of why they were incorrect. So teacher dashboard, another really powerful tool for Desmos. Let's jump back into our builder and make it so our students are going to know. So for example, if Wes here knew that he was going to get a little message when he got it correct, he might have realized he hadn't connected that last part in. So a couple of things you need to do. We're going to do a little bit of a script here. So we need to label our card sort. It starts out saying unlabeled card sort. We're just going to call it sort. Nothing fancy. I just need a way to let Desmos know what it is we're talking about. And we're going to then go here where it says add a title or instructions for your students. If I click on that, I'd like to put instructions here. So we're going to match the cards in groups of 2. And I also like to tell my students here that this title will change when you are correct, especially if they have not done this before. That lets them see or know where to see, or even that something will happen when they are correct. So those 2 parts are done. We're going to head right here to this symbol. This says edit computation layer for this screen. So Desmos allows you to go in to their computation layer. And we are going to do a little bit of stuff here, but Desmos is very intuitive with what we're trying to do. So we're focusing on our title. Desmos will do all the color coding that's needed. And what we want is that when our sort, and so that's why we had to name it sort, and so Desmos is picking up on this. And when our sort matches our key, so matches key, when it matches our answer key, we want it to say something like awesome. You did it. Otherwise, so if I start to type, Desmos recognizes what I'm trying to say. Otherwise, we want our title to remain the same. So because this last line needs to be exactly the same as the instructions we gave, I like to finish in here and then copy all of this, Control-C, copy, and then jump back in here and paste it. So you'll see right now that I'm getting a little warning, so a little syntax error. So until everything is okay, that's going to show up. And the reason it's here right now is I just need to finish the quotations. So my warning is gone. Desmos is telling me it understands what I want it to do, and we can hit done. We can check if it works by jumping to that preview. So right angle and a reflex angle are obtuse. And hopefully when I drop this on, my title is going to change. There we go. So we're going to jump out of that. So at this point, we're done. We're ready to share this with our student. So we are going to go ahead and publish it. Pardon me, we're going to go ahead and publish it. And we get to a screen that should look like, there we go. Looks like this. I can create a class code just by clicking this button. Let's try that again. Oh, it's still loading. There we go. So there's my class code. If I click View Dashboard, we're going to get to that teacher dashboard, and it's going to put up the class code so that my students know where to go. So student.desmos.com, and then put in this code. If I have more than one class doing the same activity, like I like to do a different class code for each class, just helps keep things in the teacher dashboard a little more organized. Okay, so I'm going to jump back here and sort of do a few finishing things. So just like Suad, we also have all the steps for how to create the self-checking Desmos card sort. So step by step, it's all there from how you log in until creating that class code. So let's present this. And we just have a few more things we wanted to share with you before we get to answering some questions or giving you the chance to practice. So things to keep in mind, I think we mentioned most of these. Your students, of course, may need to be familiar with both of these programs before you set them off on something. We try to make it as user-friendly as possible, but they may need some experience with it. For the pixel art, each student needs to be able to access their own copy so they can edit it. So if you assign it through Google Classroom, that should take care of that. As we said, it's easier to have it all ready to go. So all your questions and answers, all your images for your cards, to have those ready to go before you start putting it together, and then limiting the questions in both cases. So limiting the number of cards on those screens, and then limiting the questions for pixel art, just so you're not scrolling up and down and up and down. We wanted to share some links with you. So these are pixel art math activities that we have created. So from grades 6 to 9 in both English and French. So we've given you view-only access. You can make a copy so that you can use them. And then same with the Desmos card sorts. So again, grades 6 to 9 in English and French. Here are a number of card sorts that you are welcome to use and share. And then the other thing that we did with these two activities is we created some digital breakout rooms that we did towards the end of the school year this year. So they were a review of all the regular outcomes up to March, and then focus on the prioritized outcomes that the EECD sent out after the very long March break. So we used the pixel art math and the Desmos card sort, as well as a number of other activities to give students codes. So they went through a Google form and broke out of a digital breakout room. So we thought these would be good to use in September. So for example, grade 8s could use the grade 7 one to do a review of math from grade 7 to give both students and teachers an idea of where they are and what they might need more practice on. So in a minute, Suad is going to drop the link to this whole presentation into the chat box so that you are able to have a look at whatever it is you like. If you want to practice, there are some practice links here that Suad had showed you. If you want to do some feedback, the second page of the Jamboard, the second slide there, has some feedback. We'd love to hear what you think, what we can do better, or if you have any questions, or if you just want to take a look at any of the links, totally up to you. However, yeah, if you have questions or anything at all, please let us know. So I'm just going to jump back to this link page so that you can see that.